Hey, everybody. Good evening. It's Ellen from Crazy for You, and welcome to the Crazy for You podcast. I'm so glad you could join me tonight. I'm in such a great mood. Oh, my goodness. It's a beautiful, beautiful day today. Oh, I don't know what the weather was where you are, but here in Southern Maryland, it was 74 degrees, and I could not be happier for the spring. It even made the fact that we had like 20 boxes of yarn to unbox and count today doable. It was just beautiful because we could have the doors open, and it was so, so lovely. Tell me what the weather is doing where you are, Gwen. 76 degrees. Fabulous. I'm so ready for spring. So super happy about the beautiful weather that we're having here. And I'm also so happy to have with me tonight Rosann Fleischauer, who is the designer from First Byte Designs. And you probably recognize her design from not this most recent, but the last issue of the Noro Knitting magazine. And I wanted to show that to you. This beautiful design is Rosann's. And this is what the first design that I remember seeing of hers. But it turns out that she's done a ton of yarn designs for not only for Noro, but for other companies as well. And I'm super happy to have her on the show with me tonight. So I am going to go ahead and bring her on. Hi, Evelyn. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Norma. How are you? Tonight. So I am. All right. So, okay. Rosann, you're going to want to turn off whatever you're hearing. How are you? All right. Can you still hear me? Rosann, you're going to want to turn off whatever you're hearing. Okay.
I'm not sure what's giving you the feedback problem.
Do you have Facebook up? Do you hear me twice? Okay, hang on. We're having a moment of technical difficulty.
Can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Okay,
bonsoir. Bonsoir, Paolo. Bienvenue. Okay, so Rosann, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Oh, you are welcome. It's really been fun getting to know you. Rosann and I met each other at, a kind of a mastermind kind of event that we were both part of. And it's been really fun because she's a famous designer. And I think it's just so cool to, to meet and talk with people who have kind of a different perspective. So quick little quiz for you that is fun. All right.
Sure.
East Coast, West Coast.
East Coast.
All right. Wool or cotton?
Wool.
Okay. Seamed or in the round?
In the round.
Top down or bottom up?
Top down.
Standard construction or unusual construction?
Unusual.
All right. Handwritten or emailed?
Handwritten. I'm very stationary.
I knew that you were going to say that. And I think that's why I like you so much. We both write with fountain pens.
Exactly.
So that's too fun. All right. So I know everybody is anxious to kind of hear about you and get to know you. So let's talk about you. Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in New York on Long Island. And I grew up on the North Shore. So I grew up in a community that was known for its sailing and the home of Teddy Roosevelt. So I had a lot of opportunities as a child to get out and enjoy the outdoors. And being so close to the city, it was always nice to be able to get into the city to go to the museums.
Cool. Did you, when you were little, did you always think you were going to be a designer?
No, actually, I had studied architecture in college, and I graduated during the depths of a recession. So I had a dual major, and I used my business degree and worked in business, got an MBA, and started consulting.
Cool. Okay. And when did you start knitting?
I started knitting when my husband got a boat.
How does that fit?
It fits because he got a power boat instead of a sailboat. much to my chagrin. And power boats, you really don't need to have somebody else do anything. So I got bored, really bored, and decided that the best thing to do was to find a new hobby. Knitting was always something that I thought was interesting, as is crochet. And as it happened on our first long trip up the New England seacoast, the first place we stopped was Beverly, Massachusetts. And when I got off of the boat and started walking around, I just happened on the sweetest little shop. And you could hear people laughing. It was the summertime. The door was open. The displays were beautiful. I couldn't help but go in. And they were teaching a class. The shop wasn't technically open that day. So she welcomed me in and said I was more than welcome to join in the group. And at the time, I didn't know how to knit, so I deferred and just asked if I could sit quietly and watch. It was just nice to be around people that are having such a lovely day and enjoying each other's company. Just hearing laughter is sometimes the best medicine when you've had a rough day.
Yeah.
We came through a very bad storm that afternoon.
Ooh. Well, did you buy yarn that day? Did you buy needles and
I did.
yarn?
Yeah. So she let me sit quietly and just kind of watch what was going on. And then she showed me a couple of things to just cast on a few stitches. And I got a pair of beautiful walnut knitting needles and some Plymouth Encore yarn. Then she also had set me up with a little booklet, literally a little booklet of just how to knit by Virginia McAllister. And I still have it. As a matter of fact, it's in a bag on the boat because it's so useful and so small. So I can keep it with all of my other essential things. My stuff at home for some reason. So there's an extra set of needles, there's extra yarn, and her book.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so wonderful. That's not the little red covered book from TNNA, is it?
No, it was something that the booklet might have been as old as me. It was it was perfectly clean, but it was kind of yellowed around the edges and had clearly been typed. So I was very happy to have it, and I'm very glad that the cardstock has held up because it's been through some rough seas.
Oh my gosh. So what year was that, say?
That was 2001.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And those needles, those walnut needles, they weren't those Brittany walnut needles, were they, with the fancy are those so nice? Is that what they were?
Yep, they're beautiful.
Oh,
I love those. And with that fine way that they did the turning at the top. Yep.
Yeah, those are just exquisite. They stopped making those for a while, and I think they may still have them. I carry the Brittany Birch, but those to me are just the gold standard in terms of beautiful needles. Yeah, lovely. I think having nice tools makes such a difference. You know, working with nice yarn and having, like you say, nice paper to write on. And yeah. Hey, Carrie, thanks for joining us. She says it's 52 in Toronto, which is nice for Toronto. And yeah, that's central Canada, right? Toronto's kind of central. Yes, I'm not sure. Anyway, so you learned, and obviously you got pretty good at it. Did you take any lessons, or are you self-taught?
I was completely self-taught for knitting, and then when I learned to crochet, I was actually taught to crochet by a friend of mine here in town who thought that after all these years of knitting that I really had to get serious and learn how to crochet. So she actually started setting up classes, and we had class schedules and class objectives, and other people joined in. It was really a nice thing to be able to do and look forward to. Every single week we sat at the same table at the library until we were shushed.
Having too much fun, huh?
Having too much fun in the library. Oops.
So if I were going to go back to the very beginning quiz, knit or crochet?
It depends.
No, pick one. You don't have to. It's not fair.
For me, I pick knitting.
Okay.
If I'm going to make something for myself, if I'm going to make something for somebody else, I would rather that they pick what they would prefer. I wear a lot of layers. So for me, the knitting is an easier way to achieve the layers.
Right.
You get a gentler hand with the knitting.
Yeah. I always say that there's a place in the world for both. I think
Mm-hmm.
garments maybe are best knit, and other things are maybe better crocheted, like bags and, certain hats and things like that. I mean, there's a place in the world for both. It's, it's wonderful. That's why you can have chocolate and vanilla and strawberry.
Exactly.
Right?
And I can sew too. So there's my
You what?
strawberries. I sew as well. So there's strawberry.
Oh, good. Do you sew? I didn't know that.
I do. Actually, one of the other things that I do is I do marine repair.
Oh,
So,
handy.
Yeah.
Your husband must love that with the whole boat thing, right?
He does. It's tough on the hands though.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The marine fabrics, but it's interesting work.
Yeah. Good. So when did you start designing?
I started designing about 8 years ago. There's actually a very interesting individual that I had the pleasure of meeting at Stitches the first time. And the people that I was meeting up with were very good friends of mine from New York. So we all decided, because I was in Massachusetts and they were all in New York, that we would meet in some place equally inconvenient to all of us. So we met
Totally fair.
we met for a long weekend at Stitches in Hartford. And I was talking to this fellow, Lars, and he really encouraged me to take some of the things that I had been working on and submit them to publications and see if perhaps someone might be interested in my designs. And he's been my mentor ever since. He's helped me with figuring out, do I want to pursue working with a particular company? Do I want to pursue a particular type of design? And maybe partake in a particular trend that's going on or not. And very helpful to make sure that I have the direction that I need to do the types of work that I want. And he's been very encouraging over the years. Mm-hmm. He introduced me to the Long Island Knit and Crochet Guild and the Big Apple Knitting Guild.
Nice.
And thanks to Zoom, I've been able to take meetings with those groups and be able to be a part of them through all of the things that have been going on in the world for the past year.
So let's back up a minute, because you said that he encouraged you to take some of the things that you were working on and submit them. So that's how you got started being a published designer. But at what point did you start, for lack of a better term, I'll say, go off-road and design your own thing? Say, well, this pattern doesn't suit me, or I don't have a pattern for the thing I want. How did that happen? Because I think that's really challenging for a lot of knitters to make that sort of shift.
I can see that as being challenging. For me, it's because I'm relatively tall, but I wear a size small. So I had to start doing the math, and having a background in engineering and architecture, it was easier to do the math because I was able to see where the math was taking me. Mm-hmm. And with a background in sewing, I could see where the math was taking me for a particular reason, whether it was the shaping of a shoulder or if it was the drape of a garment. And to be able to take some of those measures so that whatever I was making would ultimately fit me or the person for whom I was making it. So it was, I would say it was born of necessity, much like learning how to sew so I could make sure my trousers are long enough.
Yeah, absolutely. How tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
Yeah, so I'm 5'8" also, and I have a long torso, so I have to add 2 inches to everything. Exactly. Between waist and armpit, 2 extra inches, hands down, no question. Yeah. So yeah, I get it. All right, so cool. So you obviously did submit some designs to publications. How did that go? What was the first place you submit designs, and were you accepted right away? Did you have the sad rejection letter? Tell us about that experience.
Well, the publishers really don't have the time to write handwritten notes on engraved stationery, much to my chagrin.
Too bad.
And they don't even say when something's been rejected. So basically the way the process works is to receive a call from them in the form of a paper call or an email. Now it's email, a call for design. And then if I have something in my portfolio that I think suits what their mood board is and what they're looking for, then I'll send it in. And they may accept it and get in contact with me, or I may never hear from them again about that particular one. So I know that that one is filed somewhere. Occasionally, though, they do go through their files because one of the instances where that had happened to me was the design was just sort of passed on. And 3 years later, I got a phone call from someone at Soho, and they said, "Hey, what'd you ever do with that?" And he must have had the piece of paper right in front of him because he knew exactly what he was talking about. And I remembered the design, and I remember being devastated that nobody wanted it. And he said, "No, time and place, time and place." And he was right. It is. It comes down to a matter of time and place. So that pattern was subsequently published by them. And it's not unusual at this point that that's where the work comes from.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Hey, Karen, thanks for joining us. Keisha, nice to see you as always. So talk about this. So you said something. So they put out like a call and a mood board. What does that look like? Do they send pictures or?
It depends. Sometimes it is a series of pictures that may represent what they would like to convey in an issue. It may be a list of the types of garments that they want to feature, the season that they want to inspire. And effectively, it's the same process as you would go through when you're decorating a room. You have a blank slate, a blank magazine. You have colors that you want to convey, and you may want to convey those as the primary colors, or you may want to convey them as secondary or accent colors. Then you have the mood of the room. Is it going to be a formal room? Is it going to be an informal room? So there are a lot of crossovers between my training in architecture that I do have the opportunity to observe, and I have the opportunity to be a part of. So these calls for design come out about 7 or 8 months before the magazine, which is sometimes the biggest challenge. That Noro cowl I was knitting on what had to be one of the hottest days of the summer.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So thinking of spring 2022 is something nice to look forward to. But when it's 11 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground, it can be difficult to come up with good ideas. So the calls come out, and they are usually for a few weeks reflection time before the actual proposals are due. And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to submit a finished garment or a finished object. You have to submit your concept, drawing, maybe a swatch, the yarn you'd like to use.
Wow. So you don't have to. Isn't that interesting? I clearly have no idea. But that's interesting. The whole mood board. I know nothing about this process. So this is fascinating for me. What about you guys? Is this interesting to you? I think this is so cool. I think we probably have some aspiring designers out there that would be interested. So I wanted to remind everybody, I don't know if you saw this in the description of the show tonight, but Rosann has re-gauged that beautiful cowl that I showed at the very beginning. Yes, for the brand new Noro yarn Enka. So she's renamed it. What did you name it?
Fireworks.
Fireworks. So very pretty. And she's graciously given this pattern away for free to people who watch this show. So in the show description, you can go and you can click the link, and it'll take you to a place where you can sign up. And I'll send you an email with the link to the pattern and the coupon code in there. So make sure that you do that so that you can get that cool pattern. So I thought it would be kind of fun to share with everybody some of your other designs, because I don't know that anybody is aware of just how many cool things that you've done. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
And yeah, so here we are. Okay, so this is that sideways cowl that I raved about last year because you can make 3 of them with 1 ball. And what was your inspiration on this?
The inspiration on this was that yarn is absolutely beautiful, but several of the people that I have taught to knit over the years and taught to crochet have commented that it can be really difficult to find patterns where the yarn itself presents itself in such a way that's physically flattering to them. So I thought, well, what's the most flattering way that you can express yourself with yarn that might be, oh, thank you, Patricia. I'm glad you like it. How you could present with the yarn to be something that is comfortable to wear and allows the yarn to be as beautiful as it is and not be contorted into too many different shapes that may obstruct the beauty of the flow. So I decided to work with the yarn sideways, and the yarn itself was at a relatively high price point. So I wanted to make it something that would be attainable for people to complete for Christmas because I knew it would be coming out in the fall. And I wanted to try to keep the price point comfortable for people to make several of them, because at some point we all resort to just making hats because it's Christmas Eve and we have 6 more cousins that need a hat. This cowl was sort of my response to that, because you use about the same yardage as you use on a hat, and you don't have to worry about how well it's going to fit somebody. And it's flattering to more people because of the verticality of this pattern, the way the yarn flows, than a horizontal would be.
Yeah, this is, just in case you're not aware, this is knit in Noro Ito, which is a generous 440 yards per 200 gram skein. So it's the very first yarn that Noro put out in that great big 200 gram barrel. And it is just a beautiful hunk of yarn. And it's got 36 colors. Every colorway in Ito has 36 different colors. So you could make 2 people the exact same project from the exact same skein of yarn, and they would both look different, which is fabulous. So I love that. So let's go back to the other things that we have here for you. Okay, so this actually was in the current issue of Vogue Knitting, right?
Yes, the Sankei cowl.
So tell us about this one.
This particular one was done with the idea that it was a chunky yarn, so it would be a quick knit, and it was something that I thought would be nice for people to be able to make for themselves after the holidays. So the idea here was to make something relatively quickly. It can be enjoyed in a relatively cold climate. It's a bulky weight wool, and the work on it is done in the round to create those braids in a contrasting color. So if you had some of the bulky weight Noro, the Air, or the Wool Classica, or some other yarn, you know, that beautiful skein that just you had to have, but you don't really know what you want to do with it, and you may not be comfortable wearing a whole sweater in that color. That was the inspiration for this.
This is really pretty.
Oh, thank you. It could be easy to make. It's done in the round with just a bit of visual interest.
Is that a Latvian braid?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. Very fun. And I love pink, you know that. Pink is my favorite. So some of the other things, now this appeared in the Curion book, is that right?
Yes, that's in the Curion. Mm-hmm.
So this is a very cool stitch pattern, kind of a open lattice home deck thing. You've mentioned decorating your home several times. Are you kind of into home deck and such?
I like to have practical designs. So if it's a case where I have the opportunity to make pillows out of the beautiful yarn that I may not be able to wear, that particular colorway is gorgeous on a lot of people. I am not one of those people. So when they sent me the yarn, I thought, you know, this yarn is really beautiful, but there are going to be people who aren't going to want to wear it. So why not do something that is completely exclusive of what you would wear? So I went with pillows.
Are these felted?
Yes, actually, initially when the proposal was sent into them, I had suggested that we make a big tote bag out of it using that stitch and that yarn. And they said, well, it would be better if we did something else. How about reimagining it as a pillow? So in order to use the amount of yarn that I was allotted and to present the pattern so that it would open up a little bit, you could put whatever fabric you wanted to behind it to make one of the colors more dominant in the visual presentation than the others. I decided to felt it ever so slightly.
It's really pretty. I mean, I love that. And I think I have a whole Pinterest board, knitwear for the home with the Afghans and all that stuff. So I think Noro really does lend itself to like home deck, because sometimes maybe you don't want to wear the really bright colors. So let's see what else we got. Oh, this is fun. I thought this was great.
Oh, yeah. I like that one. I get cold, and I didn't want my hair to get messed up when I walked to the train. So I made basically a big hat. This one is done in the round up until you get to the chin. And then it's knit flat, and it's Kitchener stitch at the top. Very fun. Thank you. So, yep. Patricia likes your pillows. Oh, thank you, Patricia. And let's see what else we got. Okay, I love this. This is really fun. Did you go to Rensselaer? This is called Rensselaer. Yes, I went to Rensselaer, and that was actually part of a collection that I did with some women that I go up to stay on lodge with every year. And we go up there and we just sit in front of a fireplace for 3 days and knit and talk and share ideas. So we decided to do a small collection of knitwear dresses. And that was my design with, it's a bergère yarn, so it's washable wool, and it's easy to wear. And I have it here behind me. Oh, very fun. It was a fun thing to design and a fun thing to wear. I don't know that it's very useful if you're much further south than South Carolina, but up here in New England, and I remember days down in Maryland where it would get pretty cold too. So, is it a worsted weight? This particular one is their Magic Plus, and the Magic Plus is a little bit heavier than a worsted. Okay. The reason I chose to work with it was because it washes so well. It's beautiful, and the color is spectacular. Thank you. All right, let's see. So that's a shawl. There was another thing I wanted to show. This. Another dress. Thank you. Again, for winter in New England. This one is also done in the bergère, and this one's done side to side. The idea behind this was if one were a new knitter and wanted to make a garment but didn't want to have to worry too much about shaping. Oh, glad you like it. It is done from side to side. You do the back and then you do the front so that you can practice to make sure you're comfortable with the stitch work. And the reason it's not done in the round with only one seam is because the original prototype was tilted. Oh, okay. So I had to take out half of the stitch work and make it into 2 separate panels. And I used a crocheted edge so that even though it is a superwash wool, it doesn't move around a lot when you wear it. Yeah, I think that's really, really pretty. And this one, this is a fun little hat. This is in the, you guys have seen this in the shop, the Germantown in that beautiful gold color. I love that yarn. Isn't it wonderful? It's beautiful to work with. Yeah, and it's so sturdy, It really lasts forever, and it washes, hand wash, but yeah. Ginny used this yarn to design our February hat. If you did that hat club for February, the red is the same yarn, and it's got great stitch definition, doesn't it? It really does. The Germantown was a lot of fun to work with. All of their yarns are very nicely spun. Yes. You know that they met working in a yarn store. Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so actually, I had them both on the podcast before, and Courtney was managing this yarn store, Rosie's Yarn Shop in Philadelphia, and she hired Kate to come and work. And they're both artists and knitters, and yeah, so they spin their yarn too, or they design their yarn just like a knitter would want it to be.
Neat.
Yeah, I love that. Karen says, yes, isn't that fun? So these are all available on Ravelry, and you can absolutely get them on Ravelry. And I want to come back and just, do you have any, I don't know if we do tonight, have anybody who's interested in designing, but do you have any words of wisdom for anybody aspiring to design or to get published, or what would be your takeaway?
Do we have any specific questions?
No, I mean, let's say somebody said, I'm really interested in getting into designing knitwear. What should I do?
The first thing you need to do is get a plain white notebook, no lines in it, just white paper. Because what you want to do is you just want to be able to put all your ideas down and to be able to work through them individually when you have time. I found that just leaving one of those moleskin notebooks in my briefcase when I was at the bank was very helpful. At lunchtime, I could just pull out my little moleskin notebook and I could draw on it and write down what my thoughts were. The reason I say don't use lined paper is because lined paper and graph paper restrict the process at some level. You want to start with that blank slate. And if you can't draw people, that's totally okay too. You can get, they call them croquis, which is a notebook that is available from, I think it's from Pantone, I have to double check. But effectively, it's just silhouettes of people. So you can draw the clothes on the people.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? You have an exciting thing happening. You want to tell everybody real quick before we
Sure.
go?
Actually, the thing that we are alluding to is that I'm working on a book. I have a lot of designs, as you can imagine, from having all of those moleskin notebooks that I just thought would be interesting to release in a collection that people could enjoy learning about how to work with a particular yarn, or they could enjoy working with through a particular pattern when we can all do it again, in a more social setting, so that just like the difficult to do, but they're engaging pieces that people can enjoy wearing when they're done, or can enjoy giving as gifts because they're not particularly tailored items.
So are these garments or accessories, a mix of both?
There are some of both, yes.
Very fun. When do you expect that to come out?
We don't have a scheduled release date yet. The photography won't take place until the fall. Because it seemed rather cruel to ask a model to model knitwear in the middle of August. And it just takes time. I've been fortunate enough to have a very dedicated group of test knitters and sample knitters with whom I've been collaborating to get the physical items ready to photograph. So if we catch a cool day in June, then it'll be in June. I think the book will probably be out just after Christmas.
So exciting.
Thank you. Yeah,
what's the title?
The title is a working title at the moment, and it's Coastal Knits. So I'm not 100% certain if that's what will ultimately be the title. I thought what I would do is, as it gets closer and I have more of the samples prepared, I could actually start soliciting information from people about what does it make them feel like and what do they think of when they see this particular photograph or this particular palette. Because I think that design doesn't take place in a vacuum. And I know that I have learned so much from the people I've been fortunate enough to work with that there's no way for me to simply say, this is the design, this is the title, and this is the way it's going to be. I thought it was important to present each of the patterns in multiple yarns and to use some indie designers indie yarn dyers work along the way as well, because it's part of the process. You go into a yarn store and you want to see and feel and touch. So to have those options is important.
Very, very cool. We're excited and we'll all look forward to that coming out. And I just wanted to thank you for joining me. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining me. It's been fun. And until next time, keep knitting and create something beautiful. Good night.
Thank you, Ellen. Good night.